Hey friends, Jared here with another review from Fanboys Forever. Today we're going to be having a look at something I've been anticipating for a very long time, and that's Lanard's new foray into the Aliens universe. Clearly you can see here this is the dog version, or as Lanard calls it, the runner. You can see from the sticker on the front, these are Walmart exclusive, so without further ado, let's go ahead and have a look at the figure. You can see very clearly that the packaging is this outrageous kind of green color, and I think it looks really great. It almost looks like old Dark Horse artwork from back in the day. You can see that just continues around to the side. It's a special edition Alien posable figure. You can see that on the back, we have just a write-up about what it is, and the packaging, from what I can tell, is exactly the same for either of the three figures in this 6-inch series. So there's not really anything different except for the highlight picture here on the back. It comes with Spike the dog and a face hugger. Of course, poor Spike is awfully unfortunate in the original theatrical cut of the movie, and if you subscribe to the Fincher assembly cut, then it's certainly a little different, but we could go on about that all day. You can see on the side, we just have some highlight pictures for some of the other aliens in the series. And here on the top, some of that same artwork is repeated. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So just as a side note, before we talk about the actual figures themselves, the background that you're seeing is literally just the trays that the figures come in. You can actually take the backing out from behind the clear plastic trays and get something that's actually pretty nice. So I've just took the three from the three basic figures and I've just kind of put them back there. So I actually think that's pretty cool and a very neat option. All right, so getting right into the figures themselves and look at the actual sculpting. There's definitely some less than film accurate paint details going on for the three main Xenos in this series. However, for the Alien 3 Xenomorph here, it's not exactly inaccurate to the film. You actually see in the movie itself that there's a whole lot of lighting, especially in the lead works and places like that, that actually does evoke this exact pretty much color scheme for the Xenomorph. So I actually think that that's fairly accurate, making this probably the most accurate of the three when it comes to the color scheme. So let's just get right to it. First off, with the sculpting, I mean, you would be crazy to say that this wasn't incredibly accurate and faithful to the actual film design. Now, I've always had a big soft spot for the creature's design in Alien 3, mostly because of just how wild they went with it actually being on all fours and having the head arched up like this. And I think that was actually a great choice for the movie and a great way to kind of subvert expectations. So I think that the sculpting is really very representative of what you see in the film. Everything from all of the crazy biomechanical details to the knife at the end of the tail, all the way to the ribs and the chest. I mean, you could almost, sort of stand this guy up, I guess, and pretend that he was bipedal, but it's funny because the neck doesn't go down enough for you to quite do that. So maybe you could have him lean forward like this. So it looks really cool, though. I mean, look at all that intricate detailing right there. And there's even a fairly nice paint wash that brings out a whole lot of that. And even on the shoulders, you can see all the crazy biomechanical details. And that's something I've always loved about the design of the Alien. It doesn't really look purely organic. It looks more like a machine fused with something. And I think that that's part of the allure and the mystery of the Xenomorph. You can see that there's all sorts of crazy, tiger striping almost going on. And just all sorts of little details. There's also a couple of manufacturing kind of points here on the figure that are certainly, I'm not sure if all of them are like this or if it's just my sample or what. But you can see that there's a huge line going through here. It almost looks like the interior of the figure is almost welded together there, which, is very common where you have a seam line where things get put together. So I think that that's probably going to be to some degree on most of the samples of the figure, but of course let me know. You can see that the actual legs even have plenty of detail, and the back looks just as good. So I'm very impressed with all the sculpted detail they were able to get in here. And here's the thing, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there early in the review. The price matters with what you're seeing, because you are seeing a figure that costs $10. In a world where $10 for a 6-inch scale or 7-inch scale figure isn't even really a thing anymore. Not really, anyway. Not for the level of detail and articulation that we're seeing here. Speaking of articulation, I'll go ahead and get right into that. You can see that we have a hinge that is really good, just a ball hinge right there on the shoulder. We can also see that we can go down pretty close to the chest. It can go all the way around. It has an elbow that's just single jointed, but it's on a ball peg, so it's able to go all the way around. It can't quite get 90, but it doesn't necessarily need to for how this creature moves. You can also see that the hands are just on a ball, and there's plenty of good range with those hands. You can also see that there's nothing at the waist and nothing at the chest, which is a little unfortunate. And there's just kind of cuts down here at the hips with nothing in the back legs. But that's kind of the sacrifice you make at this price point. Also, there is a really nice and very flexible ball joint for the knife tail in the back. So you can do lots of cool things with it. It would have been cooler if there had been some sort of wiring maybe in this tail to get it to do kind of exactly what you want it to do. But of course, I understand with the price constraints that they certainly chose where their points of articulation would be. I really like the neck. It does far more than I thought it would. You can bring it down quite a bit and bring it up quite a bit. Bringing it up is so important to making it look at all natural while it's kind of crawling around on all fours. Without that, you're going to definitely have some problems. So I am very appreciative that they've included that particular point. Also, the jaw is hinged, and if you look, there's all sorts of detail on the inside, even the suggestion of the inner mouth that the Xenomorph has. So that is really cool. Of course, it can't protrude or anything like that, but just the fact that it was sculpted into there is definitely something that I think is really cool and shows that they were very much paying attention to detail. Let's go ahead and focus on some of the accessories that the runner comes with. So one of them is poor old Spike the dog here, and I think he deserves some special accommodation because I think this is a very, very accurate dog sculpt. I mean, it looks so realistic, and I just think that, you know, everything you can imagine has been accounted for when it comes to paint and sculpt. And it's funny, you know, if you had told me that NECA or someone had done this with a pack-in or something like that, I would have definitely believed you. And of course, they did their own version of all these Alien 3 kind of accessories, but I'm not really sure. I don't own those. And I think this looks terrific. I'm not really sure how much more realistic you could get for a dog. And it's funny, Brandon had brought this up, but he told me, he was like, hey, Lanard does this kind of stuff like all the time. And they do these kind of girl-focused lines and animal-focused lines. They definitely know what they're doing when it comes to sculpting animals. You also get a face hugger as the other accessory here. And you get all of the details that we've come to expect from Lanard. They do a great job with these face huggers, and probably much better than they even have to do. Every little bit of detail is accounted for. And of course, the thing's just as creepy as ever. It is slightly flexible too, so you can kind of unspool the tail. Of course, there's no wire or anything like that in it. And I wouldn't go too crazy with this, but you can definitely have fun. Speaking of having fun, you can take just about any 6 or 7 inch scaled figure, and you can have any kind of unfortunate victim you'd like, and it works pretty well. It sculpts very well with like a 6 inch scaled head. You can even take the tail and kind of flex it over the neck if you want to, which kind of makes it a little more desperate as the Foot Clan soldier here is trying his best to fight this thing off. So there's lots of fun you can have with this with other lines. So scale comparison, there's definitely different lines that this can work with if you want them to be fighting some xenomorphs. Of course, the most present scale comparison, I suppose, and certainly the most current that we have, is with the Predator. You can see that the Predator and the Runner are a really good fit together, and that they, I think their scale makes a whole lot of sense for the line, so that looks good. And of course, when it comes to the actual internal logic of the scale and the line itself, we can see that we have the Warrior Alien from Aliens, which will get its own review. And you can see it's quite a bit taller because, of course, the Runner is meant to be on all fours. And then we have the big chap from the original Alien film. So you can see that I think they scale very nicely together. So let's get into some fun ones. Let's say that you wanted to have Dutch Schaefer from the arcade game, from the NECA series. If you wanted to have him take out some of these guys like in the arcade game, I think that it looks really good together. And I think that that is a great scale to recreate some of those great arcade battles. And I think those look great. So if you want to have these guys in there, you can. So here's Ripley from Alien 3. So this is the one that you would pair with it. I think it looks fine, but you can see that if you were looking to recreate some of the movie scenes, I don't think it would work quite as well here. Clearly, Ripley is a 7-inch scaled figure, and this runner is definitely designed to be in the 6-inch scale. So I think it looks okay, but I don't think it's quite there. So this leads to probably the most outrageous comparison of them all, because they're not even meant to be the same kind of product. But you can see that here we have the NECA version of the Dog Alien, or Runner Alien, or Ox Alien, or whatever you want it to be alien from Alien 3. And you can definitely see from this comparison what I was talking about with the scale. Definitely when you take something like a 7-inch scale human figure, and this is going to be much more accurate to what was in the film. And you look at this, which is, say, I think it was like $25 or something, versus, you know, a $10 figure. And then the differences become pretty obvious with the limitations in paint and limitations in articulation. However, I will say that Lanard, to their credit here, has beaten NECA, and this was the original release, so I know that things have changed since then. But the neck hinge is much better on this guy. With this, the alien is kind of always perpetually looking down. So just a little funny comparison, and they're not even meant to really be for the same group of people. I saved the most interesting comparison for last, and that's because if anybody is familiar with what Lanard's output had been previously with these figures, they know that they'd done a whole 3 3/4 line of aliens from last year. And you can see that this new one is a 2-up of the original. And I really always admired the sculpting on that original and thought that it looked absolutely fantastic. And articulation, scheme, everything, it's all exactly the same. The only difference is the style of paint that they use, the deco hits that they did. That's it. This was the one from the super set, but they also made a basic one that was kind of a cherry red color. So I think these two look really cool together. It's obvious that this is double the size, so I think that's neat. So in the end, I have to say that I think this is absolutely terrific for the money that you pay. This is a Walmart exclusive line, and Lanard knocks it absolutely out of the park when it comes to value for money. As a matter of fact, I'd be willing to say that there really isn't an action figure company that probably gives you more for your money than Lanard really does. I mean, when you look at it, this is a very, very acceptable amount of detail for only $10 on a 6-inch scaled monster figure. And the articulation is actually incredibly serviceable. Of course, there's some areas that they could have added more, but then you wouldn't be talking about a $10 Walmart figure anymore. And for this to be what it is, which is the kind of mass marketization of something like a NECA figure or something like that, then I am very impressed with what they were able to accomplish. I think that this says a lot of good things about the sculptors down at Lanard, and it says a lot of good things about their ambitions for what they're going to do with this line. This is something that I hope, and I really do hope that it's successful, and it appears to be, that I hope that for years we'll be getting new variations of alien figures at Walmart or wherever else Lanard can sell these things. I am very impressed with what they've done, and I can't wait for us to take a look at all of the other 6-inch alien figures. So I have to say, out of the 3 that was released, I do think that the Runner Alien is probably the very best one. Of course, I have a big soft spot for Alien 3. I'm not one of these people that thinks that it's the best out of the original series. As a matter of fact, I don't. I think it's in dead last out of the original trilogy. But I do think that Alien 3 is really a very good movie. It's very well made, even if a lot of the ideas weren't very good. But this isn't about the movie, this is about the figure, and I do think that this figure is the best out of those original 3. Alright guys, that'll do it for me, and I thank you so much for watching our review today. Of course, we'd love it if you could subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any more videos, and keep in mind we did review all of the Xenomorph action figures from Lanard's new series. So guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless you and yours. Be safe out there, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out.